Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a quieter world. One where the ticking clock is louder than conversation, and even the air feels like it's waiting for something that never comes. You're not out at a bar or sipping overpriced lattes under string lights. No, tonight you wake up alone in a room where silence isn't peaceful. It's thick, heavy, like an old sweater that scratches no matter how many times you wash it. There's no dog barking, no spouse muttering about the thermostat, just the hum of the ceiling fan and that tiny ache in your hip reminding you, yep, you're still here, still breathing, still aging, and let's be real. This isn't the cute kind of solitude. This is the, you probably wouldn't make it in a zombie movie kind of alone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are, and where are you watching from? You might not be the only one awake. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't wake up because of an alarm. You wake up because there's nothing left to dream about. The room looks exactly like it did last night. Thin curtains, a chilly blanket, soft light sneaking in through the blinds. No one calls your name. No one reminds you that you slept more than 4 hours. Just the tick-tock of the clock, ticking on, indifferent. You shuffle to the edge of the bed. Your fuzzy slippers are worn thin. Every step echoes like you're walking into someone else's house. But it's yours. It's always been yours. It just doesn't feel like it anymore. The bathroom light flickers as if even the bulb is unsure it wants to start the day. The mirror shows a face you take a moment to recognize, not because you forgot, but because the edges seem to blur more these days. One toothbrush on the counter, the second one, gone since last year. But the cup still holds its spot, just in case. A quiet denial, maybe. Or maybe just a habit too painful to break. At the breakfast table, there are still 2 chairs. You sit in one. The other stays empty, like it's saving a place for someone who's not coming back. You make your own tea. Not because you want to, but because there's no one else to do it. There's no sound of silverware clinking. No burnt toast to argue over. Just you. And the daily rerun of quiet. You used to laugh when people said, growing old is a lonely journey. Now you live it. Not on a mountaintop or some deserted island, but right here in your own home. Loneliness doesn't crash in like a storm. It creeps in like a drip from the sink. Slow, steady, harmless at first. Until you look down and realize the floor is soaked. You open your closet. That old shirt, the one they used to wear, is still there. You smooth the collar like they might need it tomorrow. Yesterday you laughed out loud listening to a song. Today you went silent when you realized there's no one left to say, hey, listen to this one. It's good. Back in 1347, during the Black Death, survivors were said to live longer, but happier. Not so much. They outlived the disease, but also the people they loved. Living without connection. That's the real plague. You make another cup of tea. Not because you're thirsty, but because your hands need something to do. You stare out the window. A cat crosses the balcony. You wonder if it remembers anyone, or just follows the food. Experts still debate whether senior loneliness is more about lack of social interaction or a deeper loss of meaning. But you don't need a study. You live the answer every single day. You turn on the radio. The voice isn't clear, but it's better than silence. One time you talked to that radio for 10 straight minutes. Then you laughed, realizing you just shared your frustrations with a piece of plastic. Same with the microwave. You scolded it last week for cooling your soup too fast. Not because you're losing it, but because sometimes hearing your own voice proves you're still here. You open the fridge and pull out your favorite pudding. You eat it with the small spoon, because class is a mindset, as you like to joke. And when the pudding hits your tongue, memories of an old family dinner flood in, so vivid it almost hurts. Back to the sofa. The throw pillow has a permanent dent where you always sit. The blanket next to you still smells like them. You haven't washed it. Not because you forgot, but because you're not ready to let go of that last little trace. You exhale, long and slow, not from exhaustion, but because that's the only way to push back against all this quiet. As a kid, you were scared of ghosts. Now you realize being one in your own life is worse, walking around existing but unseen. Still, you breathe. Still you carry on. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow the doorbell rings, or at least the cat stops by again. You sit back down in that old armchair, the one with the cushion that's given up just like half your joints. The spot across from you used to be occupied. Now it's just air and fading echoes. You stare at the empty seat as if it might suddenly refill itself, as if memory has the power to resurrect. That chair. It once held laughter, disagreements over movie choices, someone to argue about how loud the TV was. Now, the only arguments are with the remote, and it always wins. There's something strange about furniture that outlives people. The fabric fades slower than feelings. And the silence it holds? Deafening. You reach for the TV remote, clicking through static, news, infomercials selling knives that can cut through shoes, because sure, that's what you need at 80. You pause on a talk show, but even the laughter track sounds lonely, so you mute it. Sometimes quiet is more honest. You glance at the chair again, the light hits it just right, and for a moment you swear the cushion remembers who used to sit there. You blink and the feeling's gone. You ever hear about the year 1927? That's when the very first television image was transmitted. A blurry black and white face on a screen. People were stunned. It felt like magic. But no one tells you that the real magic is having someone next to you while you watch. The screen's just lights and noise without company. You rub your temple and chuckle. You remember when they used to argue with the game show host as if the man could hear them. "No, Linda, it's definitely Hawaii," they'd shout at the screen. Now the only voice in the room is yours, and it echoes a bit too loud. Funny how the same TV that once brought you together now feels like the most distant thing in the house. You watch it not for entertainment but for the illusion of life. Flashing colors, chatter, faces that don't know your name but fill the space anyway. And here's the kicker. Even when you do get visitors, once in a blue moon, they sit in that chair like it still belongs to someone else. As if even they feel the ghost of who once was. They shift uncomfortably, check their phones too often, and leave a bit too soon. The phrase quality time used to mean shared meals, slow dances in the kitchen, arguments that ended with hugs. Now it means 5-minute check-ins and awkward silences. Sometimes even the silence pretends not to know what to say. There's an odd piece of trivia for you. Did you know pigeons can recognize human faces and remember who fed them? For years, pigeons. And yet some people you knew for decades forget to call. Or worse, they avoid you, afraid they might catch a glimpse of their own future in your wrinkles. You try not to be bitter. Really, you don't. But when the mail arrives, and it's just coupons and medical bills, You can't help but miss the days when someone would scribble thinking of you on a postcard, even if it was from the grocery store parking lot. And still, the chair remains. You think about moving it, maybe into the other room, maybe under a sheet, but you never do. That feels too much like giving up, like admitting they're really not coming back. So instead, you clean it. You fluff the cushion. You pretend like maybe today someone might sit there. Experts still argue about how the brain processes long-term grief. Some say it's neurological, others say it's spiritual. But you say it's in the furniture, in the dent of that chair, in the space left behind, in the way you glance toward it before speaking, out of habit. And you do speak to it, don't you? Sometimes it's a comment about the weather, other times it's, "Did you see this mess in the news?" followed by a laugh. And once in a while, you whisper, "I miss you," like it's a secret no one else is allowed to hear. Let's be honest, if someone walked in on you mid-conversation with that chair, they'd assume the worst. But you're not losing it. You're just keeping it. Keeping connection, keeping routine, keeping what matters, even if only in echoes. The chair isn't just furniture. It's proof that someone once loved you right here in this room. It's an anchor in a house that's drifting in time. You reach for the remote again. This time you land on an old movie. Something black and white, something slow. You imagine them beside you, narrating the ending, ruining the plot just like always. And you smile because even now that voice is louder than the one on screen. You rest your head back, eyes growing heavier than your heart tonight. Maybe the chair across from you will always be empty. Or maybe, not really. Maybe, just maybe, it's still holding something invisible, but warm. And so you sit. One more night. One more moment. Breathing in the memory of someone you never stopped waiting for. The next morning arrives like an unwanted guest, early, uninvited, and too bright. The sunlight creeps through the blinds and spills across your face like it owns the place. You wince. Not because of the light, but because that same spot on your back decided it hates you again today. You don't leap out of bed. You sort of negotiate your way out. Each movement is a silent treaty with your joints. If your body were a car, the check engine light would have been on since 2009. Still, you rise. That counts for something. You make your way to the kitchen again. The tile feels colder than usual. Maybe the thermostat's off, or maybe your feet have just finally given up. You place your hand on the counter like it's a railing, and for a second, you feel like a tightrope walker, crossing your own kitchen with balance and sheer willpower. You pour a bowl of cereal, not because you want cereal, it's just what you do. Morning, cereal, it's routine. And routine is the glue that holds your hours together. Outside, a dog barks somewhere. You used to know its name. You used to know the neighbor's name too. Now you're just the quiet one with the curtains. At least the dog still says hello. Kind of. Funny thing, back in 1947, researchers discovered something they didn't expect. Rats who were socially isolated died sooner than rats with community. Loneliness killed them faster than stress, faster than poor diet. Even lab rats, man. And yet here you are, going on year 3 without a dinner invitation. You chuckle at the thought. Guess I'm beating the rats. You mumble into your coffee. The days have started blending together like bad watercolors. Tuesday feels like Thursday. Saturday feels like irrelevant. You mark your calendar not because you have appointments, but to remind yourself the world is still moving. A little square of proof that time exists even when your life feels like it's been paused. You catch yourself staring at the window again, not out of curiosity, but habit. You wonder when the tree across the street got so tall. You wonder why no one ever trims it. Then you realize it's been years since you noticed that tree at all. You're not bitter. You don't hate anyone. You just feel unchosen, like the world is full of conversations you were never invited to. Like everyone got a group chat but forgot to add your number. You scroll through your phone, what a joke. 3 unread messages, all from the pharmacy reminding you about refills. You scroll a little further. A niece liked a photo you posted 4 months ago. She's still alive at least. And oh, that one video you posted last year, the one where you tried to cook and burned the toast? It got 4 likes. You watch it again now and still laugh at your own face, wide-eyed, panicking, over the smoke. That laugh echoes differently now. It's not sad, just distant, like hearing your own voice on tape. There's a scientific debate. Some experts believe the aging brain actually craves novelty to keep from slipping into depression. Others argue it craves familiarity for comfort. You crave both. A new memory maybe, but wrapped in something that smells like the past. You sigh and walk over to the bookshelf. Remember when you used to collect books like they were treasure? Now they mostly collect dust. You pull one down, a novel you read decades ago. The pages are yellowed, the spine cracked, but the words inside? Still the same. You open to a random page and read a line aloud, just to hear yourself speak. Just to remember what it sounds like when you say something that doesn't start with "I need to schedule a doctor's appointment," and maybe the worst part? People think you're lucky. You've got your own place, no responsibilities, peace and quiet. Yeah, because nothing says living the dream like heating up soup for one and having no one to complain to about the state of daytime television. The loneliness doesn't come all at once. It builds, like layers of wallpaper. First you don't notice, then you start forgetting how the wall looked before. Then, one day you reach out and realize you don't even know what you'd say to someone anymore if they knocked on your door. But still, you talk to yourself. Not the full conversations, just the muttered commentary. Where'd I put the remote? Oh, that's where I left it. Great, now I burned the rice. These tiny broadcasts to no one keep the house from going fully silent. You water. The plant by the window, only one left. The rest didn't make it. You whisper to it like it's a friend. Don't you give up on me too, you say, half joking. But only half. And just like that, the afternoon slides into evening. You make a sandwich, not because you're hungry, but because dinner still deserves to happen. You sit at the table, alone again, across from that empty chair. Experts still debate whether solitary aging is a failure of society or just an inevitability. But here in this kitchen, under this light, it feels like both. You didn't choose this, but you're surviving it anyway. You bite into your sandwich. The bread's a little stale, but it crunches. And that sound? That's something. You clear your plate, turn off the kitchen light, and pause before heading back to the living room. You pass the hallway mirror. You glance at it, and you smile. Not because things are great, but because you're still here. Still upright. Still trying. And that's enough. For now. You ease into your evening spot on the couch, a gentle sigh slipping from your lips like steam off a cup of tea. The TV flickers again. Some old sitcom rerun where everyone's always smiling, everyone's always together. You don't even know the characters' names. But somehow, the background laughter feels like company. A laugh track for a life that doesn't have one anymore. Your legs stretch out under the blanket you never quite fold. It's always there, always waiting. Kind of like you. Outside, the sky turns a gentle shade of purple. Sunset used to be a shared moment. Look at that, you'd say, pointing out the orange streaks in the clouds, like someone spilled a smoothie across the sky. Now, no one answers, but you still say it, because not saying it would mean giving up. You remember when evenings were filled with phone calls, clattering pots, the smell of dinner that wasn't microwaved. Now it's just leftovers and reheated memories. And they never taste quite the same, do they? There's a moment, you feel it every evening, where the silence gets too quiet. You glance at your phone, knowing full well it hasn't buzzed. You wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was a missed call. There wasn't. You scroll through your contacts, finger hovering over names that feel like old addresses you no longer visit. You see names of friends who moved away, family who grew distant, people you swore you'd never lose touch with until you did. You think about calling someone. You don't. The awkward pause, the weird energy. You don't feel like auditioning for affection tonight. Back in 1969, when the Apollo 11 astronauts landed on the moon, millions watched in awe. One small step for man, one giant leap. And yet, in Buzz Aldrin's later years, he said the silence of space wasn't nearly as haunting as the silence of being forgotten here on Earth. That hits different now, doesn't it? You reach for your mug, lukewarm tea. The kind of warm that's not comforting, just tolerable. Kind of like most conversations these days, safe, short, polite. People ask how you are, but they don't wait for the answer. There's a knock in your memory. Not the door, your memory. A knock on an old moment. You flash back to a dinner party in '92. Too much wine, too many laughs. Someone made a toast. You can't remember what they said, just that everyone clapped. You laughed so hard you cried. You'd trade 10 quiet years for one night like that again. Experts still debate whether nostalgia helps or hurts seniors coping with loneliness. Some say it soothes, others say it locks you in the past. But for you, it's not about choosing. The past just shows up, uninvited, sits on the couch next to you and stays a while. Your body starts to ache in that familiar way. Nothing dramatic, just little reminders. Knees whispering that you're no longer invincible, shoulders groaning like old floorboards. You stretch, then wince. It's a dance. You and pain. You don't even get mad at it anymore. It's just part of the choreography now. You flip through an old photo album, the kind with sticky pages and handwritten labels. There's a shot of you holding a birthday cake, 20 candles, then 30, then none, because someone stopped buying cakes. You trace a finger over the face next to yours. Gone now, but not gone. You still remember their laugh. You can almost hear it. You laugh too, quietly. It catches in your throat. It's a little cracked like a vinyl record, but it's yours. Then, out of nowhere, you remember something odd. In ancient Rome, widows used to wear black for up to a year as a public sign of mourning. But some never stopped. They wore black until the end, as if their grief was stitched into the fabric. You wonder what color your loneliness is? Probably beige, faded, like the wallpaper no one bothers to update. The remote slips out of your hand and falls to the floor. You grunt a little as you reach down to pick it up. Not from pain, just from the effort of doing things solo. Every small task is a reminder that there's no one else around to grab it for you. You turn off the TV. Too much noise. Or maybe not. Enough of the right kind. You lean back, staring at the ceiling, counting the bumps in the plaster, like they're constellations only you can see. You name them, just to pass the time. That one's regret. The long one, hope. The tiny one in the corner, that's still trying. Your eyes close for a moment. Not sleep. Just a pause. Experts argue whether loneliness in old age stems more from loss of loved ones or loss of identity. But it's not a competition. It's both. You didn't just lose people. You lost who you were when they were with you. But here's the weird thing. You're still you. Under all the ache, all the quiet, all the dust, you're still in there. Sometimes it just takes a little longer to find yourself again. You open your eyes and look at the clock. It's not even 9 p.m., but it feels like midnight. You rise from the couch and shuffle toward the bedroom, flicking off lights one by one like closing curtains after a show no one stayed to watch. In the hallway, a small photo hangs crooked. You straighten it without thinking. A tiny act of control in a world that often feels like it's slipping. That little gesture? That's resilience. It's the kind of thing people miss when they only see the outside. You crawl into bed. The sheets are cool. The pillow molds to your shape, and for a moment you feel something soft, something almost like peace. Not happiness, not even comfort. Just stillness. The kind that doesn't ache. You close your eyes and whisper, not to God, not to the universe, just to the air. Maybe tomorrow someone calls. And even if they don't, you'll get up. You'll drink the lukewarm tea. You'll straighten the photo. You'll live another quiet masterpiece of a day. The next day crawls in, quiet and gray, like an email you don't want to open. You don't check the weather. You feel it. The dull ache in your knees says it's going to rain. That ache has better accuracy than most meteorologists, and it doesn't need a Doppler radar. You shuffle to the bathroom, brushing your teeth while staring at a face you sort of remember. There's something about the eyes that still looks young, still searching, but the rest, well, and gravity's doing its job. You chuckle. Time really knows how to melt a face, huh? Down the hallway, the floor creaks in all the familiar places like an old song. You don't mind the noise anymore. It's better than silence. You make it to the kitchen and pause at the fridge, staring like it might surprise you. It doesn't. Same groceries, same leftovers. The yogurt in the back has probably evolved sentience by now. You pop in a piece of toast, it burns. Of course it does. But you scrape the black off and eat it anyway, because the trouble of starting over isn't worth the taste of perfection. That's something they don't tell you about aging. Efficiency starts to win over idealism. Every single time. Mid-bite. You remember something random. Did you lock the door last night? You did. You always do. But the doubt creeps in like static. Aging comes with this fog, this flickering, not quite forgetful, just delayed, like your thoughts need to load. Back in 1911, a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus studied memory decay and found something called the forgetting curve. Basically, without reinforcement, we lose information quickly over time, like sand slipping through fingers. Or names at a high school reunion. And yet, the weirdest part? You remember your third grade teacher's perfume like she's still in the room. But you'll stand in the kitchen staring at the microwave for 30 seconds wondering why you're even there. Your brain's storage system is like a thrift store, random, disorganized, and occasionally full of treasure. You glance at your list. The little paper one you keep taped to the fridge. Groceries, call pharmacy, water plant, walk. That last one always feels sarcastic. Walk where? For what? You don't really go anywhere, but you still do it. Mostly. You grab your keys and coat, stepping out into the world like a character entering stage left. The air is heavy. Moisture hangs in it like a whisper. You pass the same 5 houses, same barking dog, same uneven sidewalk. You nod at a neighbor. He doesn't nod back. Maybe he didn't see you. Maybe he did. You walk slower than you used to, but you walk. And while you're at it, you spot something small, a flower poking out of a sidewalk crack. Resilient little thing. You smile. You and me both, you whisper. Experts still argue whether daily walking is enough to delay cognitive decline. Some say yes, others want 10,000 steps and a gym membership. But your doctor said it best. Move it or lose it. So you move. Even when it's boring. Even when it hurts. Back at home, you take your shoes off with that special sigh you save for that exact moment. The one that says I did it and also, thank God that's over. You hang your coat, sit down, and feel a small jolt of pride. It's funny how victories shrink as we age, but they still count. Later you decide to clean out a drawer. The junk one. The I'll get to it later one. You find batteries that don't work, receipts from extinct stores, a broken watch, and 3 buttons from jackets you no longer own. But also, a photograph. Folded. Creased. Faded. It's you and someone you loved. You forget the year, but not the moment. You were laughing. You still remember the sound. You run your fingers across the image, and for a second, it feels like time folds in on itself. Like you could just step into the frame. That's when you feel it, that ache in your chest. Not pain, not sadness, something softer. Nostalgia maybe. Or memory pretending to be real again. You tuck the photo into your shirt pocket like a secret. Like armor. There's a legend, did you know this? That the ancient Egyptians believed the soul lived in the heart, but memory lived in the bones. That's why they wrapped the dead so carefully, to protect what couldn't be written down. You think about that every time your joints creak. Afternoon becomes evening. You flip on a lamp and watch as the warm glow spreads across the room like melted butter. It's cozy. You earned this calm, even if it's quiet, even if no one knows. You did it. You microwave dinner again. Pasta this time, it's too soft. Everything is these days. But it fills the silence. You eat slowly, not because you want to savor it. You're just tired. You consider calling someone again, but instead, you just whisper into the quiet. Still here. Like a lighthouse blinking in the fog. Not waiting for ships, just proving it's alive. You clean up the dishes, wipe the counter, refill the ice tray. These little acts, they're tiny rebellions against the disappearing. They say, I matter. Even if only to the crumbs in the cup rack. Experts still debate whether routine is a source of comfort or a symptom of stasis in older adults. But you know the truth. Routine is survival. It's a schedule when no one else sets one. It's rhythm. And rhythm is a kind of heartbeat. As you brush your teeth again that night, you catch your reflection. And this time, you don't just see lines and wear. You see the person behind all of that. Still there. Still fighting. Still you. And when you climb into bed, pulling the blanket up like armor, you whisper something again. Not because anyone's listening. Just because you are. You did good today, and really, that's enough. You wake up before the sun, not because you want to, just because that's how it works now. No alarm needed. Your body just taps you on the shoulder at 5:12 a.m. like, hey, it's time to exist again. The world is still dark outside your window, like the opening scene of a movie you forgot you were starring in. You lie there a while listening. Nothing. Just the fridge humming in the kitchen like a tired jazz musician. The house always has its own playlist in the early hours. Creaks, groans, little whispers in the pipes. You know every note. You roll over slowly. Not from laziness, just strategy. You've learned that moving too fast in the morning is like trying to run a software update before your coffee. Something's going to crash. Your feet touch the floor. Cold. Every morning, the same cold. Like the floor is reminding you, yes, you're still here. So you say it back under your breath. Yep, still here. Today feels like one of those days where the clock is moving in dog years. You shuffle into the kitchen and reach for the kettle. Tea again. Always tea. Coffee's too jittery these days. Your body can't negotiate with it like it used to. Tea is gentler. Less betrayal. And as it steeps, you sit down with your old friend. The chair. Not a fancy one. Just that perfectly worn-in seat by the window. It hugs you in all the right places. Furniture doesn't lie. You stare out the window and watch the sunrise come in slow like it's shy. The kind of pink-orange glow that makes the sky look airbrushed. You think to yourself, if I had someone to text this to, I would. But you don't. So you just nod at it like, good job, sky. There's a routine to your mornings now. The same show on TV. The same crossword. You use a pencil, even though pens are bolder, because pencils forgive mistakes. And these days, forgiveness matters more than boldness. You glance over at the calendar. It's blank. Just like yesterday. And the day before. A wide open ocean of nothing. But somehow, even that feels like pressure. Like you should be filling it. Doing something. Being productive. That old guilt again. Sneaky little thing. You. Remember back in the 80s when everyone said, retirement is freedom. They sold it like a tropical vacation for the rest of your life. Commercials with gray-haired couples on yachts, golf, margaritas, beach walks. Nobody told you about the quiet. Nobody told you that freedom with no plan can feel a lot like being lost in a mall parking lot with no car. And then there's the part they really don't mention, usefulness. How it slowly fades from your daily life like the smell of someone's perfume long after they've left the room. You used to be the person people called. Now your phone only rings when a prescription's ready or someone's trying to sell you solar panels. There's this fact. Almost no one knows it. In 1965, the U.S. introduced the Older Americans Act, aiming to support aging citizens. But over time, the funding per person has barely kept up. A lot of the support systems age too, just like the people they're meant to help. And while experts still debate whether aging in place or in communities is better for well-being, you know the truth. What really matters is whether someone still notices you. You rinse your teacup, careful not to clink it too loud. The quiet feels sacred somehow. Like if you disturb it, the day might crumble. You head into the spare room. The everything room. It used to be your kid's room. Then storage. Now, it's where your memories sleep in cardboard boxes. You open one. Just one. Inside, a baby shoe, a dried corsage, a postcard from Spain. A cassette tape labeled Mixtape 87 Do Not Tape Over. You smile. Mixtapes were how people flirted in your day. Curated affection, one track at a time. You find a note tucked in the corner, folded twice. You recognize the handwriting. It says, "Be back soon." They weren't. Your breath catches, not a full sob. Just that quiet inhale, like you're trying to fold your heart back up into its smallest shape. You sit with the box for a while, not to wallow, just to remember. Because sometimes remembering is the only time you feel completely real, like you're not just drifting through routines but actually stitched to a story. And that story, even with its empty pages, still matters. You close the box gently, like tucking in a child, and return to your day. Whatever that means now. You fix a sandwich for lunch. The bread is dry, the tomato watery, but it's food, it's enough. You eat by the window, watching a squirrel dig in the yard like it's mining for gold. You whisper, "You're too late, buddy. I already buried all the treasure." Mid-afternoon hits. That strange, suspended time between lunch and dinner where everything feels like it's waiting, even you. You sit back in the chair again. You let yourself nap, not because you're lazy, but because your body says so. And when you wake up just for a second, you forget what day it is. Maybe even where you are. That half-dreamed confusion is a regular visitor now. There's a legend from old Japan. Elders believed that the soul leaves the body briefly during naps just to wander. Maybe that's what your naps are now. A small escape. A little adventure where nothing hurts and everyone remembers your name. When the sun starts dipping again, painting long shadows across your living room, you feel the ache behind your eyes. Not tired, just full. Of what? You're not sure. You flip on the TV. Mute the sound. Watch the flickering colors move. It's like background noise for your thoughts. A moving lava lamp of distraction. Dinner is soup. You don't even care what kind. Just hot and quiet. You stir it slowly. Not because it needs it, but because you do. And as the night begins to fold itself into darkness, you find yourself once again on the couch, wrapped in that same blanket. The one that never gets folded but always forgives. You glance at the phone. No calls. So you whisper again. Still here. Evening stretches long and slow, like taffy pulled by time. You sit with it, not fighting. It just letting it settle across your shoulders like a heavy shawl. There's a kind of elegance in that, knowing when not to push. You turn on a lamp, but only one. Overhead lights are too much now. They glare like interrogation rooms. One soft lamp is enough. It makes the room feel like a nest or a memory. You grab the remote, not to watch anything in particular, more like checking in with old ghosts. Reruns, game shows, the occasional documentary about a war you were technically alive for but still don't understand. You flip until something doesn't offend your mood. That's the bar now. Not too loud, not too sad, and preferably no laugh track. On screen, a couple is arguing about installing a pool. Must be nice. Your biggest water feature is a leaky faucet in the laundry room. You smirk and say out loud, "Maybe I'll put in a moat to keep the neighbor's cat out." You're funny when no one's watching. Outside, the streetlights click on, your town's version of a heartbeat. One by one, a soft pulse against the dark. You've watched it. Every night for years. Sometimes you wave at them, just in case they're watching back. It's during this time, this slippery part of night, that your thoughts start to wander. Not dramatic ones, just quiet little questions that bubble up like carbonated loneliness. Did I do enough? Where did Everybody go. Is this it? But you don't dwell. You've learned how to steer out of that skid. You get up, stretch your back with a sound that can only be described as a human accordion, and walk to the hallway closet. You open it slowly. Inside, a stack of puzzles, a deck of cards, 3 flashlights that may or may not work. And at the bottom, your late spouse's coat. You haven't moved it. You never will. Some things are not for organizing. Some things just are. You touch the coat gently. The weight of it surprises you every time. Memory does that. It feels heavier than the real thing ever did. There's a fact. Barely anyone talks about it. In 2020, the National Academies of Sciences reported that nearly 1 in 4 adults over 65 is socially isolated. Not just lonely, isolated. No regular contact. No one checking in. Like a lighthouse with no ships in sight. Experts argue whether technology is the fix. Tablets, smart speakers, group chats. But you know what? It's not the same. A notification isn't a hug. A screen can't make eye contact. And Alexa never asks how your hip feels. You pull a puzzle down from the shelf. One of those 1,000-piece ones with a picture of a meadow. You hate this meadow. You've done it 3 times, but it's something. Something to do with your hands. Something to look forward to finishing. Even if it takes days. You dump the pieces onto the coffee table. It sounds like a tiny avalanche. You sort the edge pieces first because some order still feels good. And that's when you hear it. A knock. You freeze. Not out of fear, just surprise. Like the world forgot you existed and suddenly remembered. You walk to the door slowly, your steps making no effort to hide themselves. You open it. It's your neighbor's kid, the one who mows your lawn sometimes. He forgot his phone charger. Last time he helped you fix the screen door, you hand it to him. He thanks you, starts to walk away, then pauses. You need anything? You want to say no. Because instinct tells you not to be a burden. But something, maybe your spine, maybe your heart, says otherwise. Got any batteries? My flashlight's out, you lie. He nods. I'll bring some by tomorrow. And just like that, you've invited tomorrow in. When you close the door, you smile. A little win. Not big, but real. There's a legend from the Vikings. They believed that if a person was remembered, even once, after their death, their soul would live on. Not in heaven, not in Valhalla, just in someone's mind. Memory as immortality. You sit back down and return to your puzzle. 2 pieces click together. Satisfaction. Your fingers remember how this goes, even if your brain doesn't. The TV plays quietly in the background now, just noise, the kind you miss when it's gone. You think about calling your daughter again, but it's late. She's busy. Everyone's busy. So instead, you whisper to the room, "She's okay." That's enough. You pull the blanket up around your shoulders, lean back and stare at the ceiling like it might offer answers. It doesn't, but it offers space. And space is enough for tonight. You close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to pause. The quiet doesn't feel so empty anymore, you whisper without even meaning to. Still here. It's funny how even silence has its own soundtrack. You wake again around midnight, not because of a noise, but because the silence shifted just slightly, like the room exhaled and forgot to inhale again. You lie there in the soft glow of your nightlight, listening to the old rhythms of the house. The slight hum of the fridge, a floorboard creaking under no one's weight, and the slow, steady beat of your own heart, like a bass drum in a band that's playing just for you. You sit up and reach for a sip of water from the glass on your nightstand. The water is lukewarm. You grimace but drink it anyway. At this hour, you're not picky, just practical. You swing your legs over the edge of the bed. The floor is cold again, just like every time. Your knees complain. Your back throws in its opinion. But you rise anyway. You've gotten good at that. Rising even when your body casts a vote against it. You shuffle toward the bathroom and flip on the light. It buzzes before it comes on, flickering like it's unsure about its purpose. You stare at your reflection for a long moment, not examining, not judging, just recognizing. You touch the edge of your face where a wrinkle has deepened, a place that used to hold more laughter. You say softly, "Hey you," to yourself in the mirror. Just a greeting, just a reminder. You use the toilet. Wash your hands, brush your teeth, each task its own ceremony. Even alone, you keep the rituals. It's not about who's watching. It's about proving to yourself that you still deserve the care. There's this weird, fascinating fact. Ancient Egyptians used to bury combs and coal sticks with their dead, so they could continue their grooming in the afterlife. It was that important. Dignity didn't have an expiration date. You pad back to the living room, still barefoot, still half asleep. The puzzle sits on the table like it's been waiting for you. You glance at it and think, "Not tonight, friend." Even your hobbies need boundaries. You head to the kitchen. Something calls for a snack. Not hunger, not boredom, just a soft kind of wanting. You open the fridge and stare for longer than necessary. Pickles, apples, one slice of cheddar wrapped in cling film like a sad little present. You settle on toast. It's always toast. Warm, dry, a little boring, but reliable. You eat it standing up, like you're afraid to commit to a chair. Sometimes that's how loneliness works. It doesn't show up in tears or drama, it just makes you eat toast at 12:30 a.m. without sitting down. You look out the window again. The street is empty, no cars, no people, just the flicker of the street lamp, and the faint silhouette of the neighbor's recycling bin rolling slightly in the wind. And then you feel it. That ache that's not in your body. Not a pain exactly, just that strange empty pull in your chest like someone left a door open inside you. You miss being needed. There's something no one tells you about aging. Usefulness isn't just a phase, it's a sense of identity. When you stop being someone's go-to, you start wondering who you're meant to be now. And yes, experts are still arguing about whether older adults feel more fulfilled through volunteering or mentoring. Some say purpose must be self-driven. Others argue it needs to be mirrored back through others, but you just miss the feeling of mattering without having to earn it every day. You remember a time, you must have been 40, maybe 50, when your phone rang too often. When there were calendars filled with meetings, pickup schedules, birthdays, anniversaries. When people looked to you for answers, for help, for comfort. And now, the only ping you hear is the microwave announcing your tea's ready, or the occasional weather alert warning of wind, as if wind is news now. You chuckle. A soft one, the kind that disappears into your collarbone. You don't mind the quiet. Not always. Some nights like this one, it even feels like an old friend. A roommate who doesn't talk much but shares space well. You rinse your mug, dry it slowly, and put it back in the same place you always do. Everything has a place now. Every action is a rhythm. And then you do something unexpected. You sit at the small desk near the window and pull out the old notebook. The one you started a few years ago and abandoned. You flip past the first few pages, lists, recipes, a half-finished poem about thunder, and land on a blank page. You pick up a pen. Not because you have something to say, but because maybe the act of writing will lead you to it. You begin. Still here. Still learning how to be alone without being lonely. Still waiting for mornings that feel like beginnings instead of leftovers. You stop, reread it, and leave it there. No pressure to finish. Just proof that you're still part of something, that your story didn't stop, even if the audience changed. There's this lesser-known piece of history. During World War I, soldiers in the trenches used to write poetry by candlelight. Not for publication, not for glory, just to stay sane. Sometimes surviving meant giving your pain a shape. You close the notebook and return it to the drawer. The night is quieter now, like it's exhaled with you. You head back to bed. Tuck yourself in. One side of the bed is colder than the other. Always has been. You reach out, touch it, and say softly, "Good night." You don't know if you're saying it to someone real or just to the part of you that remembers, but either way, it feels good to say. You close your eyes. Still here. It's morning now, but not the kind that rushes in like a caffeine commercial. This morning creeps. It spills into your room like someone tiptoeing through your memories, not wanting to wake them. The light is soft, filtered through the old curtains you swore you'd replace 10 years ago. You don't. They've aged with you. Faded in all the right places. They know how to hold light gently. You blink a few times. No rush. Your feet find the floor like they're testing the temperature of the day. You sit up, roll your shoulders and listen for the usual sounds. The kettle clicking on, the heater whispering, and that one bird that always sounds like it's laughing at you, not with you. You smile. It's too early to be insulted by a bird. Today feels like a day for real clothes. Not pajamas, not sweatpants, but an outfit. You pick one out slowly. A shirt with buttons, pants with a zipper. You look in the mirror and think, not bad, if I squint. But here's the weird part of getting older. You start dressing less for others, and more for your future self. You wear sweaters because you know you'll get cold around 4 p.m. You wear shoes with support because your ankles have opinions now. You head to the kitchen. Your body knows the route, like it's been training for this very moment its entire life. You open the fridge. There's yogurt, a bruised banana, and exactly 2 eggs left. You consider the eggs, but only if one doesn't crack wrong. You're not in the mood for existential omelet failure. While the toast pops up, you turn on the radio, not the TV. Radio still holds some kind of magic. A voice talking to you like you're the only one listening. A man is speaking about a local fair. Rides, cotton candy, kids screaming their joy into the sky. You close your eyes and remember the last time you rode a Ferris wheel. It was squeaky, shaky, and perfect. You were 37. The world was spinning for you then in all the best ways. You eat your breakfast standing up again. Old habits. Or maybe just muscle memory of the years when mornings were a race and the idea of sitting felt like a luxury. Now you have time. All of it. And that's the paradox, isn't it? Time, once so scarce it had to be scheduled, now pours in like molasses, and no one tells you how heavy it gets when it just sits there. Experts debate whether the elderly feel time more deeply or more passively. Some say the brain slows down, stretching each moment out like a film in slow motion. Others claim it's just perception, nothing more than memory playing tricks. You, however, know this. Some mornings feel like chapters, others feel like footnotes. After breakfast, you open the window, let in some air, some bird song, and regrettably, a bit of, pollen. Your nose immediately regrets your optimism. You sneeze 3 times in a row and laugh. Still allergic to nature, good to know, you say to no one. You glance around the room, everything in its place. Neat, predictable, comfortable, yes. But also, still. And then you remember, today is library day. You haven't checked out a book in months, but the habit calls to you. You pack a tote bag, the one with the faded quote from a forgotten poet, and head out. The world outside is louder than you remembered. Cars, sirens, teenagers shouting at each other like volume is currency. You walk slowly, cane in hand, not because you needed every step, but because it tells people to give you a little space. It's your gentle force field. The library is cool inside, both in temperature and mood. The same librarian is there. She wears a new pin today that says, "Reading is rad." You smile. She doesn't see you at first. That's okay. You're not here for fanfare. You wander to the fiction section. Touch the spines of books like they're old friends you forgot to call back. You pick one. Hardcover, historical fiction, something with a castle and a scandal. You're not above a little drama, as long as it's printed on recycled paper. While checking out, you mention the weather. The librarian agrees. It's too warm for this time of year. You both nod like philosophers who just cracked the code of the universe. As you walk back home, you pass a mural you've never really looked at. Bright colors, faces of kids and elders, trees that wrap around windows. Someone painted hope on this wall. You pause to admire it. A small group of students skate by, not noticing the art, or you. And that's fine, because in that moment you remember something strange. In the 14th century, people in parts of Europe believed that old age was a blessing from the divine, a mark of divine favor. Wrinkles were wisdom, not flaws. You touch your face again, let that thought linger. Back home you make tea. Sit in your chair by the window. The new book rests in your lap. You haven't opened it yet. You're not in a rush. You just sit there, the quiet unfolding around you like a blanket. And then your phone buzzes. A message from your neighbor's kid. "Hey, I dropped off those batteries like I said. You need help with anything else?" You type back, "Not today, but thanks for checking." You hesitate, then type again, "Actually, what's your favorite snack? I'll stock it for next time." You hit send. The sun shifts. A little warmer, now. A little kinder. You open the book, and finally, you begin. The book doesn't disappoint. It has the right amount of scandal, betrayal, and dramatic horseback escapes to keep your mind buzzing. By page 37, you're mentally casting actors in the lead roles. By page 45, you're whispering, "Oh no, don't trust him," to the heroine, as if she can hear you across the centuries. You pause for a moment, hand resting on the page, and glance up. Outside, the neighborhood is moving in slow motion. A delivery truck sighs to a stop across the street. A young man in a neon vest hops out and drops a package on a porch with the urgency of someone who's late for absolutely nothing. You hear the soft bark of a dog behind a fence. The wind nudges a paper cup across the sidewalk like it's trying to teach it how to dance. You take a deep breath. It smells faintly of spring, damp earth, old leaves, something sweet you can't name. Maybe honeysuckle, or maybe just memory-wearing perfume. And you realize in a quiet sort of way that you've finally mastered the art of doing nothing and making it feel like something. There's a term you heard once. Active stillness. Supposedly coined by a monk or maybe a poet or maybe your yoga instructor neighbor who insists the universe has a plan for everyone, including your knees. Either way, it means being present. Still. But alert. You sip your tea and think, this is what it must mean to live in lowercase now. Soft sounds, gentle actions. A life that hums instead of shouts. But of course, not every hum is peaceful. Later in the day, you check your mailbox and find a hospital bill you don't remember generating. $119 for something called facility usage. You laugh. Did I rent the entire hospital and forget? You shake your head and place it on the pile with the others. Bills, flyers, that coupon for cat food despite not owning a cat. You sit down at the kitchen table, the one with the scratch on the corner. From that time you tried to open a stubborn jar of pickles with a wrench. You stare at the paper. This is the part they don't show in those cheerful retirement brochures. The constant, quiet negotiations. With your health, with your budget, with time. There's a phrase you once heard in a documentary. Aging is a full-time job you didn't apply for and can't quit. The experts on the panel kept debating whether government systems should offer more structured support. But all you could think about was how nobody talks about the mental weight of it all. You pick up a pen, scrawl, call billing dept in, shaky letters on your notepad. Add a sad little question mark next to it, like maybe not today. Instead, you open your freezer and stare at a pint of ice cream. You tell yourself it's for later, but we both know what happens next. 2 scoops, maybe 3. You sit on your porch this time. Let the sun do its thing. The ice cream melts faster than you remember, and so do your worries. For at least 7 bites. A kid on a bike zooms past, legs pumping like pistons, eyes focused ahead. You envy that kind of tunnel vision. That belief that the future is a straight road with no potholes. You remember riding a bike. The feel of the wind against your face. The ache in your thighs. That sense of reckless direction. You didn't know where you were going, but you were going. You close your eyes and hear the click-click of your old bike's spokes. You can almost feel the weight of your backpack, heavy with cassette tapes and peanut butter sandwiches. Here's something curious. The earliest bicycles, invented in the 19th century, were called velocipedes. No brakes, no gears, just raw human effort and questionable balance. Kind of like aging now that you think about it. You head back inside. Check the time. It's barely 2:15 p.m., but your body is already scheduling a nap behind your back. You resist for now and flip the TV on, scrolling past endless channels, infomercials, news anchors with smiles too white to trust, a rerun of a cooking show that makes you feel inadequate for not owning saffron. You finally settle on something old, black and white, familiar. You whisper the lines before the actors say them, not because you're showing off, but because the words remind you of someone. You're not even sure who anymore. Maybe your mother, maybe your partner, maybe just a younger version of you who used to say, "I'll never forget this." You did forget, of course. But somehow the memory stuck around anyway, like a melody. Without lyrics, you fall asleep without meaning to. Just for a few minutes, and in that half-dream state you see something strange. You're in your childhood kitchen. The tile is yellow. The clock ticks too loudly. You're pouring cereal into a bowl and humming a song that hasn't been written yet. You wake up with a start, disoriented. For half a second you think you're late for school, then you remember. Everything. You're back. In your chair. In this body. In this quiet hour of your life where dreams are soft and time is tender, you stretch. Your back sings its usual complaints. You nod back at it like, yeah, I know. The sun is lower now. The room glows orange, like it's been painted by candlelight. You open your book again. Page 46. The scandal continues. Good. The eye. Quiet surrounds you again. Not empty, not lonely, just yours. You flip to page 50 and the scandal thickens. A secret letter. A midnight escape and someone named Lord Henry who's clearly too handsome to be trusted. You smirk. Fiction always gives you exactly what life won't. Resolution in 300 pages. But real life? It drips along like a faucet with a mood. By now the sun is folding itself into the horizon. The shadows in your room stretch their legs, yawn, and settle across the carpet. You switch on a lamp. The one with the crack in the base that you keep telling yourself you'll glue one day. It leans slightly like it's also tired of pretending it still stands straight. There's a certain rhythm to these hours. The part of the day where everything quiets down, but the mind starts revving up. You wonder if this is what they meant by the witching hour for old souls. Too late for coffee, too early for bed, and just the right time to think about every mistake you've ever made. Or didn't make fast enough. You reach for your notebook, not the digital kind, the spiral-bound one with pages that smell like pencil shavings and nostalgia. You jot down a list. Not a to-do list, a thought inventory. That song I couldn't remember last week was from high school dances. I should ask Ava if she still has the quilt Mom made. The neighbor's kid might need a ride next week. Should offer. I haven't been to the ocean in 5 years. That's too long. I wonder if squirrels ever forget where they buried things. That last one makes you laugh. You picture a squirrel in therapy crying because it lost a nut and its identity with it. Here's the funny part. Writing things down doesn't fix anything, but it does make the chaos look polite. A list is just anxiety in rows, but at least it's not hiding under your bed anymore. You think about how back in ancient Rome older citizens were revered as keepers of wisdom. Elders weren't pushed aside. They were called senex, from which we get senator. Imagine that, being respected because you've lasted, not despite it. You look at your hands. They've lasted. Through burns, blisters, pages turned, people held. You flex them. They still work. Mostly. Outside, a car door slams. Someone shouts, a goodbye. A baby cries. Life continues its symphony. Off-key, unscripted, but always playing. You remember a time when your own home was filled with those noises. A slammed door meant someone was mad, but not for long. The baby crying? Usually your second-born who later grew into someone who doesn't answer texts for 2 days straight. You don't hold it against them. Not really. You used to be like that too. Young, distracted, untouchable by time. But time catches up. Not like a thief. More like a cat. It curls around your legs, quiet and insistent, and suddenly you realize it's been there the whole time. You walk to the hallway mirror, the one no one else sees but you. It doesn't lie, but it doesn't mock either. It just shows. Your reflection looks back with a softness you didn't have when you were younger. Less sharpness, more kindness, like your features finally figured out how to be on the same team. You whisper something, not out loud but in your head. A thank you maybe. Or a truce. Back in the living room, the phone rings, an actual ring. No chirp, no custom ringtone of a popular song, Just that steady trill that feels like 1992 called, and wants your attention. You pick up, it's your niece. The one who talks fast and laughs loud and never finishes her stories in a straight line. She just called to say she's thinking of you. You pretend you weren't startled. You say all the right things. You tell her yes, the weather's been kind, and no, you haven't fallen off the porch again. She laughs. You laugh too. She says she'll visit soon. You know she probably won't. But it's okay. The promise still counts. After you hang up, the silence returns. Not as a punishment, but as a companion. You turn on a soft playlist. Music from a time before things got complicated. Maybe Billie Holiday. Maybe Nina Simone. Women who could hold heartbreak in a single note and still make it sound like velvet. Experts say music triggers memories because it connects to the part of the brain that bypasses language. That's why you remember the tune from your wedding, but not what you had for lunch yesterday. They're still studying how that works. Still, debating if it's science or sorcery. You close your eyes. Let the music carry you, and for a moment, you're not older. You're just you. The real you. The core that never aged, never wrinkled, never stopped dancing inside your ribs when no one's looking. The sky outside turns lavender. That sweet moment before darkness finishes the job. You decide not to cook. Tonight feels like a crackers and cheese dinner. Maybe a slice of apple for balance. Maybe two if you're feeling rebellious. You eat slowly. Not out of necessity, but because each bite reminds you that your body, though slower, still works with you. You finish the book. Lord, Henry gets caught, the heroine escapes. Justice prevails. You close it with a satisfied sigh, like finishing a puzzle you didn't know you started. You place the book on the shelf where it joins the quiet club of stories that got you through another day. And as the final notes of music fade into silence, you realize this day was simple, uneventful, small even, but not empty. Never empty. You dream of bread, not just any bread, fresh, still warm from the oven bread, the kind you used to bake on weekends before arthritis got too cozy in your knuckles. You're kneading dough in the dream, your arms moving with purpose, a soft dusting of flour in the air. Someone laughs in the background, maybe your sister, maybe your old neighbor from 2 towns ago, or maybe a voice you haven't heard in years but still remember like a favorite song. When you wake up, your hands curl instinctively, half expecting a bowl of dough. Instead, they meet the cool fabric of your blanket and you smile. There's something strange about how real old dreams feel. The brain pulls memories from a dusty shelf and polishes them under moonlight. You forget your own pin sometimes, but you remember how your grandmother's bread smelled at 4 a.m. when you stayed over as a kid. You sit up. The light through the blinds stripes across your wall like piano keys. The house is quiet. Again. Always. You shuffle into the kitchen and do the morning routine. Kettle on, cupboard open, the spoon tapping the side of your favorite mug. That chipped yellow one with a cartoon bee that says, "Buzz off" in curly letters. A gag gift from your granddaughter. You pretend to hate it, but it survived 3 moves and 2 decluttering phases, so clearly the sentiment isn't mutual. While waiting for the water to boil, you glance at your kitchen calendar. Someone wrote checkup on today's square in blue ink. You don't remember writing it, could have been weeks ago. Could have been someone else entirely. You sigh. Another day, another appointment, another waiting room that smells like antiseptic and old magazines. They don't tell you this, but the older you get, the more your calendar fills with things that weren't choices. Doctor, dentist, prescriptions, tests, physical therapy, follow-ups for the follow-ups. You wonder what would happen if you just didn't go, just this once. You imagine calling the office in a raspy whisper, "I'm sorry, but I've chosen freedom." And then you chuckle to yourself because you know exactly what would happen. They'd just reschedule it. Still, there's a flicker of rebellion in your chest. A tiny protester inside you waving a sign that says, "Not today, modern medicine." But you go anyway. Because you're responsible. Because you know ignoring your body won't make it younger. And because deep down, you still hope someone will look you in the eyes and say, "You're doing better than you think." You grab your sweater, the comfy gray one with elbow patches, the one that smells faintly of detergent and old movie nights. The ride to the clinic is uneventful, which in this age of potholes and unexpected detours is a small miracle. You park too far away, forget why, and mutter to yourself like someone in a sitcom rerun. The waiting room is exactly how you left it last time. Same plastic plants, same dull painting of a lake that's trying too hard to be peaceful. A little boy sneezes into his hand 3 seats away. You resist the urge to throw holy water. You fill out the same form for the 10th time. Name, date of birth, medications. You wonder if they're just testing your memory. Maybe it's a secret geriatric game show. Welcome to Do You Still Remember? Your blood pressure meds? A nurse calls your name. You shuffle in, answer the usual questions. You lie about how much water you drink. You exaggerate about your brisk daily walks, which are actually 10-minute loops to the mailbox and back. The nurse raises an eyebrow but says nothing. She probably hears the same script from everyone over 60. Then comes the waiting. Antui, the exam room. You sit on that crinkly paper like royalty on a throne of noise. The walls are lined with diagrams of organs that are frankly just showing off. You never cared what your liver looked like until it started threatening to quit. The doctor enters. You've seen him before. Young, confident, too cheerful for this hour. He's the kind of guy who probably runs marathons for fun. He asks how you're feeling. You say fine because it's easier than saying, like a wind-up toy running out of key. He nods and checks a few things, makes a few notes, and finally tells you, "You're stable." Stable. You leave, with that word echoing in your brain. Not improving, not declining, just holding, like a plane stuck in midair, like a song on pause, like a phone ringing and ringing but no one picking up. Still, stable is better than slipping, so you take it. Like a consolation prize handed to someone who didn't win but still showed up. On the way home, you treat yourself. A pastry from that overpriced cafe with the too loud jazz and the confusing chalkboard menu. You don't care. You point to the thing that looks like it'll crumble just right and say, "That one." It's delicious, too sweet, absolutely perfect. You sit outside and watch people pass. A woman walks her dog like it's made of glass. A teenager skateboards like the ground owes him rent. A couple argues over parking but still holds hands. You sip your coffee. It's lukewarm, but you love it anyway. Here's the thing about this stage of life no one prepares you for. The beauty in boredom. The miracle in the mundane. The sacred in sitting still. The experts still debate whether boredom is bad for aging brains. Some say it leads to depression. Others claim it promotes creativity. You're not sure. All you know is that sometimes boredom feels a lot like peace that doesn't know it's peace yet. You go home. You hang up your sweater. You sit back in your favorite chair. And as the evening settles in again, soft, quiet, golden, you realize something else. Being stable doesn't mean being stuck. Sometimes it just means you're still here, still trying, still baking dreams in your sleep. And that, in its own way, is enough. You forgot what you walked into the room for. Was it your phone? A glass of water? Something about the oven? You stand there blinking at the cluttered counter like it's about to confess your intentions, but it doesn't. It just sits there smug and silent, surrounded by a half-solved crossword, a coupon for canned peaches, and a set of keys you haven't used in weeks. You sigh. Classic, you mutter to no one in particular. And then, like an episode of Deja Vu rerun, you walk back out of the room, hoping the thought will circle back around like a boomerang. Spoiler alert, it won't. But at least you're getting your steps in. Memory has started playing games with you. Not hide and seek, more like poker. You bluff your way through forgotten names and misplaced birthdays, raising your eyebrows like you totally meant to say, "Happy anniversary" a week late. People laugh. You laugh. It's fine. Mostly. You once read that ancient Egyptians believed memory lived in the heart, not the brain. They'd weigh the heart after death to determine if you led a good life. Can you imagine? Your life measured not by facts retained but by feelings remembered. You'd probably pass. You still remember the way your child's hand felt wrapped around your pinky that one autumn morning. You still remember the exact pitch of your partner's laugh the first time you burned the rice and tried to play it cool. You remember things that have no practical use, like the jingle from a shampoo commercial in 1984, but they stay because they matter to you. Scientists still argue over what causes memory lapses in aging. Is it hormones, lack of stimulation, a slow retreat of the brain's synaptic highways? They're not sure. You're not either. All you know is that sometimes your thoughts take the scenic route, and sometimes they just don't show up. But that's okay. You've started making peace with it. Like today, you couldn't remember your old neighbor's name. But you remembered how she always smelled like peppermint and carried a tote bag that said, "Ask me about my cats." You remembered the essence, if not the label. And maybe that counts more. You start writing things down again, not because you're afraid of forgetting, but because it feels good to look at something and say, "Ah, there it is." You have sticky notes on the fridge, on the bathroom mirror, inside your favorite book. They say things like, "Take your pills, silly. The oven is off. Double check anyway. You are still you." That last one always makes you smile. Because some days, you need that reminder more than your vitamin D.